What will we do with this moment? How will we be remembered? Look at the opportunities before us.
This election really isn't about the left versus the right. It's about we, the people, choosing our government and the choice between freedom versus tyranny.
Nobody has a chronic disease burden like we have. Why are we allowing this to happen to our children? Ultimately, the only thing that will save our country is if we choose to love our kids more than we hate each other.
What is going on here is deeper than politics. It is deeply spiritual. We are being called to rise above the hatred and the fear and the evil.
We need to remember above and beyond that we must love our neighbors, that we must treat other people as we hope to be treated.
You want to be a rebel? You want to be a hippie? You want to stick it to the man? Show up on your college campus and try calling yourself a conservative.
America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing!
Don't you want healthy children? Don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again?
I come to you today as a former Democrat. I will be a first-time Trump voter tonight.
The people dreamed this country, and it's the people who are making America great again. Making rock and roll. We've caught them all.
Good evening, friends. Hey, that second video was from Italy QAnons from I don't know if that was 2020. It was, it's a classic one, but I'd like to welcome everybody. 2 questions worth pondering. Just want to say hi to everybody in chat before we get started. We've got Carrie and In God We Trust, Natalie, I believe. If that's correct, let me know. And we have Pocket Friend. We have Kari. Hey, Kari. Kari's on YouTube. So we've got a few people on Rumble and YouTube. I'd like to welcome you to Questions Worth Pondering. This is where we pose questions related to current and historical events. And I'm your host, Nevs. And in today's episode, we're going to ask, were Elon and RFK Jr. a part of the plan all along? I'm super curious. And not just them. I think I had Tulsi Gabbard in the intro photo, but man, I started digging on her history. And I don't know. Maybe I need 2 parts to this. Consider supporting me. You can leave a Rumble rant on Rumble. It's rumble.com/QWP to get to our live show. Just go to the live tab. And or you can find other ways. Let me actually bring up my Linktree. I'm on Linktree. It's linktr.ee/NevsTV. And you can support me in different ways there as well. Let me pull up. Sorry, I lost my StreamYard for a second there. You can support me by buying me a coffee. You can do a donation on PayPal. You can buy products from my store at nevlanders.com. And I added on here, just so you guys know, I have some affiliate programs that I'm signed up for. I have a few. So the Gathering Place, I'm actually going to pull this up because it's new. My Patriot Supply. So if you go to Linktree or in the description of the video on YouTube or Rumble, the link's there too. Brave Books, you can use the code NEVS. And those are the different ways you can support me. I do want to call out the Gathering Place. This is if you give promo code NEVS. Let me go ahead and click on that. Whoopsie. It's like opening in a new window so that you can't see it. So hang on. But if you give promo code NEVS, then you get 10% off and I get a little affiliate income. So I do want to do a call out, though, that this is my sister's website. So she has TikTok where she does Bible verses, and she's selling a prayer journal for women and starting a Facebook group for folks to have fellowship and share scripture. So if you go there, you will get a certain percent. 10%, did I say? Yeah, 10%. So promo code NEVS. All right. Let's go ahead and get started with the show. And I've got a lot of different things to cover. So what I'm going to cover tonight to try and answer that question, and I don't think we're going to have the question answered. I think I just want to look at some circumstantial, interesting information that may be interesting to let us know if some of these players that we thought just got close to Trump recently, if perhaps maybe that's not the case. Before we dig into that, though, there's a lot going on in the world. And, you know, everybody has been decompressing after the election. I know I have been. I think some of you have been. I noticed a shift in energy after the election. And I just want you guys to know we deserve that break from the constant, hitting it hard and fighting and hoping. And, it's just like time to relax for a little bit. So, but after the new year, guys, we have to stay vigilant. We have to stay vigilant because we're just getting started. We need to get Trump inaugurated, but then the Dems are already planning 2022 and 2024. They're planning. They're trying to be strategic, trying to figure out what they can do to subvert Trump during his term. So there's going to be a lot still going on over the course of the next few years. And let's take this break, shall we, to just kind of enjoy the show and see what happens. So there's some current events, though, that I might want to talk about. A couple of things that are going on now. Let me just remove my screen and see. Oh, we've got Mike in chat too. Hey, Mike, thanks for joining us. Yeah, it was both those videos at the beginning were pretty amazing, right? You'll see why I played the Italy QAnons one as we go along our discussion tonight. And but yes, it's good to have you. Carrie, I've ordered from My Patriot Supply, emergency stash. Yeah, they have. Yeah, that's why I'm like, I should be an affiliate with them, because if anybody hasn't, it's a prepper company where you can get supplies for food in case, your power goes out. Look what happened in North Carolina with the hurricane and things like that. So, In God We Trust says they're amazing too. Yep, they sure are. Anyway, let's see. Some of the current events going on that I just want to weigh in on. Biden's preemptive pardon for his son. It pretty much caused a shitstorm, if I'm going to be honest, pardon my French. Not only are we all appalled, even some on the left are like, that's not cool. But what's really interesting about this is that now some on the left are calling for more preemptive pardons for other people. And they're calling out names. Like they're saying, Fauci should have one, and just other people. And no, I don't want that to happen. But what I find really interesting about that is they're literally calling out names, like that these people should be worried. And it's like, okay, so you're saying these other people who should have a preemptive pardon, which I don't even know if it's legal to pardon for a crime you're not calling out. He just did a pardon for the last 11 years for Hunter. Very, very curious. But so they're asking for the same kind of pardon for other people. And it's like, number one, I don't think it's legal, but number two, it exposes who all these horrible people are that have been doing horrible things. So that's just my thought on the pardons. I'm not worried about them. I'm not worried about Hunter being pardoned. I don't even know if that whole swath of pardons is legal, or if you literally have to be a criminal convicted. I'm not sure how that works. But do I even have, let me see if I have. I did start pulling up some information on the pardons, and I was just looking to see if I saved any of it for tonight. I don't think I did. I was just going to talk about it. So, yeah, when I was looking up some of the research I was doing, I don't know if the wording is very vague, but it's very clear that like people can't be pardoned for impeachment. It's only for federal crimes. But again, it's crimes. So if you haven't even been indicted yet on something, I don't know that that pardon would, I think it's going to be fought. The other great thing about that I think a lot of people have been mentioning is the fact that, okay, Hunter, you're pardoned. That means you need to show up at any grand jury we have and testify, and you cannot claim the fifth and say you're not going to talk because you could incriminate yourself. So let's see what happens. I think it's going to be an interesting next couple of years. Then another thing is that Elon and Vivek might, with a new Doge department in the government for efficiency, they might do, there's rumblings that they could do away with daylight savings time. I'm all for that. What do you guys think? I would love that. I actually complained about it a couple of years ago, and talked about how that should just be abolished, because I think there was somebody in Congress was talking about doing away with it, and it's like, yes, can we get this bill through, please? Oh, they mentioned Cheney and Schiff with who else should be pardoned? Oh, that is so funny. It's funny. In God we trust that you said enjoying the calm before the storm, because I have storm stuff coming up too. And also saying, I know in God's justice will prevail, but I can't help but be a little vindictive for the crimes against humanity. I know. I get it. You know, yeah, Biden. Okay, so this is interesting, Carrie. So it's Biden who's been naming these people? That's really interesting that it's Biden. I don't know. Let's see what happens. I'm not sure. It's just very interesting. Anyway, so Elon and Vivek named to Doge. So I had a show in the past asking about Vivek Ramaswamy and whether he's legit or if he's infiltrating. And I still, even though Trump named him to Doge and he's going to be working with Elon, I still have not seen him in action. I'm still concerned just because of his background. So let's see what happens with him. But I've got my eyes on what he's going to be doing, and let's see where it goes. I really want to see him govern. So this is a private group that Trump is naming. You know what's really interesting too? Trump, I think it was today, that he did an announcement that he's naming a legal counsel for that group. So I bet they're anticipating a ton of lawsuits as they try to clean up government. It's going to be, that one's going to be pretty interesting. So, but yes, I want daylight savings time to go away. Not sure if you guys feel as strongly as I do about it, but but I feel pretty strongly about it. It drives me crazy. I mean, even the kids at school have to get used to the change, but even like my animals are still not used to the change from last month. Anyway, and then MSM is claiming, maybe I do have something on this one. I do. So I'm going to pull it up. This one's kind of funny for the current events. I just wanted to talk through a couple of these because I haven't been posting everything that's going on. The last couple of days haven't really been feeling that great. Plus, I've been busy. And we've had this change in temperature and the weather. Did I say temperature? And the weather. And it was crazy. Yesterday, I got a notice, up on my phone saying, unexpected winter storm squall warning, winter squall or snow squall warning. I have never ever seen that. And I mean, look at me. I'm not a young chicken here. I have never seen that before. um Oh, and God we trust said, I'm thankful that you voiced your concerns about Vivek. I thought it was just me. No, and I still have concerns. But anyway, this winter storm was crazy weird. It popped out of nowhere because the sun was trying to come out. But yesterday we had such vicious winds. It was so windy, like stuff was flying around outside. I took my dog Oliver out, and a huge wind. So the sustained winds were like 25 to 30 miles per hour. And then we get these 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts. And just about, I was taking Oliver out when one of them happened, and he got super scared. And then suddenly this squall came, and it was crazy. You could not see. There was just suddenly snow, and it was going sideways. And it was just crazy. Anyway, sorry. I went off on a tangent about the weather. But I was talking about how I haven't been posting a lot the last couple of days. But Trump considering replacing Hegseth with DeSantis as defense secretary pick. So MSM is claiming this. They're not announcing their sources. Of course, they have sources close to, they never name. But what I'm thinking about this is that it's one of two things. And I could be completely wrong. It could be something that Trump's considering. I don't think so, though. I think it's either wishful thinking on their part, or whoever tried to leak that to them, or it was a leak. Here's the thing. Do you guys remember in Trump's last term, all the leaking that happened? So I'm just wondering if there's some testing going on. If like certain people are getting certain information and the Trump team is seeing if it gets leaked to the press. That's just something that popped in my mind. I don't know, but I really don't think Trump's considering changing Hegseth and putting DeSantis in for a military role like that. Yes, DeSantis is great at taking the woke stuff out. I mean, he's done a great job in Florida, and I know we've complained about DeSantis. But, he was running against Trump, which was just a shock, and he was financed by, like, people, I think, related to the Lincoln Project, who are a bunch of rhinos, and big rhino establishment money was behind him, and he was acting strange when he was running. So I don't know what's going on there. Hopefully those strings have been cut. But I don't think, what do you guys think? Do you think that could be true? A true thing that's happening right now? He's got all these, those sexual allegations, and people at Fox saying he drinks a lot. I just think that is just trying to take him down. I think the people who are best for Trump's administration are the ones who are going to get the biggest attacks. And I know Matt Gaetz stepped aside so Pam Bondi could step in, and she did step in, not so she could. I was very disappointed, but that was a different strategy. He didn't step aside because of what he was being accused of. He stepped aside because they were trying to make sure that he could get confirmed. Trump did threaten to get him in place anyway, so I really wish Matt wouldn't have stepped aside. I love Pam Bondi, though, but I think Matt would have probably caused a lot more ruckus, which is what we need. Oh, that's right, Carrie. So back to the squall. Carrie says, I've never experienced a squall. I haven't either. And they said a squall is an unexpected burst of snow, but we happen to be having 30-mile-per-hour winds. So it was like, it looked like a blizzard. I couldn't see, like there was zero visibility suddenly. And, like there's like this barely any snow on the ground today. So it like all blew somewhere, or I don't know. So even just a tiny little bit of snow when you've got winds like that, I guess can cause visibility issues. It was pretty dangerous if you're like in the middle of driving and that suddenly comes. It only lasted like 5 minutes. It was weird, maybe 10. But yes, in 2021, we had Snowmageddon. That's right. They called it Snowmageddon. That's right. Oh, so back to what I was talking about. Yes, Pocket Friend. Yes, as Nancy called it, the wrap-up smear. Yeah, so I wonder if I have that video. Oh man, I think I meant to have it for this. Darn it. Oh well. So yeah, Nancy Pelosi literally explained to the media how the wrap-up smear is done, and it includes the media in there. So she's like, yeah, we lie to you so that you'll go and report something, and then we'll be like, oops. And then it's too late. It's already out there and gone viral, and everybody believes what the media says. Or they'll purposely leak misinformation. So she literally admitted what they do. And remember when she said, we have arrows in our quiver? Remember that? All right. So what was the other thing I wanted to call out before I get into the main topic? Oh yeah, this. Because I think it's important. You guys know I'm kind of passionate about the kids, and I still have Targeting the Innocent coming. But the schools. So Elon Musk posted this today and said this is a big part of the reason your children are not getting a good education. Whoops, I'm trying to make this bigger so I can point this out better. So the Rabbit Hole posted that there's a big increase in administrative staff at American public schools. So if we look at this chart, this is from the year 2000 all the way up to 2021. The administrative staff increased by 95%, yet teachers and students pretty much increased only by maybe 5%. More teachers than students, which actually I think is the right call because the class sizes were so big. But more in principals, and then principal and assistant principal grew by 40%. So a lot more had to be managed because they have all this administrative staff. This is crazy, the size of the schools. So Red Not Ted. Doesn't Nancy seem to, I did that hiccup on purpose, seem to be exposing too much Ted? See, she put a hick, so I did a hick. Oh, yes. Red Not Ted. Too much red. Exposing too much red. Yeah, and she said Nancy. All right. This might be a show where I'm hopping around. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Anyway, this was that's a pretty incredible chart. I thought that was interesting in case you missed it kind of thing. And what I was posting and what I shared a post about what's going on in France. We have to keep our eyes on France because the French government collapsed after a no confidence vote. So this can be super interesting. Macron said he's not stepping down, but that within days he will have a new person identified. And here's the interesting part here. I'm just going to read this paragraph here, starting here. Prime Minister Michael Barnier's administration becomes the shortest-serving government in modern French Republic and the first in 6 decades to be toppled by a no-confidence vote. Although the motion was put forward by, this is interesting, although the motion was put forward by a left-wing alliance, the swing votes of Marine Le Pen, I brought her up before I saw this article, and her far-right lawmakers wielding unprecedented influence were key to its passage. So the reason I find this so interesting is after I reposted someone else who had posted about his ousting or the toppling. It was Ash in America. She had posted it on Twitter. And she's on Badlands Media, by the way. I don't remember all the shows she's on, but she posted that on X. And so it just got my wheels spinning. And the first thing I thought of was Le Pen. I'm like, well, what's going to happen? Because she got the majority part of the government. So I didn't understand how she couldn't have been elected leader last summer. And in 2022, they had a big upset with the populism party, which is conservative, taking way more seats than they thought they would. It was amazing. So she's been the leader of that group, and they call it far right. It's not far right. It's the populist group, not radical. They just want freedom, just like us. They don't want censorship, you know. Anyway, so then I saw this, that because of her and her lawmakers, this passed. And it's incredible. It's historic. A lot of people in France are freaking out. And what I don't understand, though, because I haven't had enough time to look into this and how French politics works. So if you guys let me know, throw a comment in chat. But I'm curious because Macron said he is going to name his replacement. How is he allowed to do that? If he was just voted as like no confidence, why would he be allowed to name his replacement? I don't understand how that works. They also can't have another election till next summer. I was reading about that. So I've been trying to do some fast research before the show, and I'm like, oh, I don't have time. So we might have to talk more, maybe during Meme Wars on Saturday or something. But the interesting thing about this, so I've got another headline here. He ruled out resigning. He's not going to resign. He is going to tap a new prime minister. I just don't get how he's allowed to do that. But what's Red posted in Telegram chat, she's like, oh, this is interesting since Macron just visited with the Crown Prince of Saudi recently. And I'm like, he did? So I've been so detached from the news for 3 days. So I went and checked that out, and I checked out they met this week, Monday through Wednesday. They had a 3-day get together in Saudi Arabia. So I'm curious, everything that was agreed to there. They had an agreement. They decided, they signed a strategic partnership. They both had a call for Lebanese elections and a call for a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. So this is like, I feel like that Pepe Salva has got like the whiteboard with all the strings. So let's see what happens there. I don't, that's just something I'm watching. So, and I think I don't have this, but I want to talk about it. So one more thing, in case you missed it, there is a judge. Oh, and I don't know the name of the judge. So I'll post this on social media later. I have to find it because I don't see that I bookmarked it. A judge, some left-wing judges announced their retirement. And they generally do this ahead of time. They'll announce it like a year ahead or 6 months ahead or 2 years ahead. And then they generally, some judges will go into a senior judicial role, but they're no longer like a sitting judge on the bench. And like in between retirement or whatever, there is a judge that after the election announced that he is unretiring. So he was set to retire right after the election, and he announced he's not. And so Mitch McConnell, of all people, the Senate kind of oversees the judiciary, and they have the hearings and stuff like that. McConnell, who is an establishment conservative, that we are all unhappy with many of the things he does, but he actually called this judge out, and he wants to potentially investigate it because if a judge does something like that based off of political reasons, it shows two things. One, it was a political stunt, which goes against judicial ethics. And two, it shows that the judge could be biased, so likely shouldn't be a sitting judge. So expect interesting potential, I'm hoping, hearings on this, and potentially a forced retirement or impeachment for this judge. We shall see. I just found that pretty interesting. So sorry, I have been wanting to get, we're already half an hour in, we're 44. How are we 44 minutes in? All right, I'm going to do high level, then I'm going to delve into the details because I have a lot to show. And actually, we're going to do part 2 on next Tuesday. I'm just calling that right now. Also, current events. Did you guys see that girl destroying products in Walmart? The viral clip that went around. A lot of the current events I didn't even want to have media for because I didn't want to waste everybody's time with a ton of videos. But there's this young girl, throwing stuff, smashing stuff, even like breaking stuff that could be dangerous, could be sharp, like things made of glass, throwing meat on the floor and stomping on it. And somebody tries to stop her and they're like, what are you doing? You don't know what she's going through. Like, they tried to stop somebody from stopping her. She could have harmed somebody. Anyway, okay, rant off. Let me just talk about the main topic tonight. All right, I am going to start. So I have a method because there's like a timeline. And so I'm going to start with President Trump. Before he ever ran for president, I kind of want to go through a little bit of history to set context for why I think the way that I think, that I'm thinking on a potential. And I want to be super curious. Like, if you guys know of information that I can add to this too, throw it in chat and I don't care if you throw a link in chat, even though I don't know if the link's but I'll pull up a link, or if you have a comment you want me to add more context. But I'm going to talk about Trump before he ran, and not like all the videos we've already seen, but to set some of the context, I am going to show some of interesting things Trump has said, like at his rallies. I have very short clips, like some are like 10 seconds. And then I want to talk about his transition now and what's happening with his transition, because he's privately funding his transition. And it's interesting why he's privately funding it. I feel like everything ties into what we call the plan. A lot of the stuff that has been a part of the information warfare and strategies from the Trump team from early on. And I want to talk about the generals. He highlights the generals a lot. And I know, so my question worth pondering is, has Elon and RFK Jr. been a part of the plan all along? But I just kind of want to talk about the plan and then get into interesting stuff about Elon and RFK Jr. So maybe tonight we'll cover mostly the plan, and then we'll talk about some of the things we'll go over with Elon RFK, because in high level, some, it's not going to be a surprise, but RFK Jr., he's been, he talks about how the CIA has been involved in John F. Kennedy Jr.'s assassination. He's called a lot of people out on that. He's called out some MK Ultra programs. Like, he's like way more based than you would expect a leftist person to be. Yes, he's all about climate change, but we'll cover all of that after we get through the plan stuff. And then Elon, the history of all his businesses we're going to cover, and some similarities to Trump and Elon over the years. And also my concerns, I don't like the fact that he references Dark MAGA with the Dark MAGA hat and had his profile pic being his Halloween costume, which I did not like, and the fact that he was all for climate change as well. But also, he talked about changing his views. And so I want to talk about that, but he says he changed his views recently. I'm just thinking that might not be the case. So we're going to wrap it up next week. Oh, and then also with Tulsi Gabbard. She's the third person I think there's been sort of a plan for her transition to where she's at now, starting way back, like 20 years. So tonight we're going to cover the plan. Next week, we're going to delve into those details with RFK Jr., Elon, and Tulsi. I think that would be a good way to split it up. So, all right, let me just check chat. Oh my goodness. What are you guys talking about in chat? Oh, you're still okay. Okay. I'm not seeing anything new that I need to add. So let's go ahead and start with, I think the first thing I'm going to start with is I want to point out back in 2012, a video of Trump. And, I had never seen this, and I recently saw it. I'm going to remove this so I can get it ready. So I decided not to upload videos to StreamYard because of all the technical difficulties. So instead, where's my video? Oh, here it is. I just want to see okay. First, this I want to give credit before I show the video is um, Justin Deschamps. He is also on Badlands. They have a lot of talented people, don't they? So he just made a comment that Trump knows what he's doing and that he's going to cripple the machine that has made it possible for citizens to flourish. So he posted a video. I am going to share my screen now. This video, incredibly, I don't know how he found it. I would love to ask him, Justin, how did you find it? Oh, Pocket Friend. Yes, this is exactly going to be when I wrap everything up. The kayfabe. I think there has been indications of kayfabe, and I have to give Kyle Just Human credit for coining that term. For a lot of us that have been using it. So yes, that is definitely, I have things to point to that point to this. So thank you for that comment. All right, 2012, Trump. Let's listen. It's incredible. Okay, 2012.
And I said, somebody said, well, what would you do? What can you do? So easy. I drop a 25% tax on China. And I said to somebody that it's really the messenger. The messenger is important. I could have one man say, we're going to tax you 25%. And I could say another, listen, you motherfuckers, we're going to tax you 25%.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I was late on the trigger for that one. So back in 2012, first of all, he says, it's so simple. It's so simple. And the messenger matters. So if you get some weak person in saying the same thing Trump does, it's not going to work. Somebody else could go in and say, yeah, I'm going to do tariffs. But here's the thing with Trump. I can't believe this was 12 years ago. With Trump, they believe him because he follows through on what he's going to do. He does it. And they don't mess with him. They don't mess with this guy. So it's interesting that he's like, I was telling someone, here's an indicator right here. Why in 2012 was he talking about what he would do? So for a while, he was making a plan to eventually become president. That's why I wanted to play that one. All right. I'm not going to get into the generals yet, but I will pretty soon. I think a good setup for talking about the plan and what's coming is to understand information warfare. Now, it was incredible about, I'm sorry, but I love Rebel Trump. Yes, he is a rebel. Oh my goodness. So I think maybe sorry. I have to, you have to forgive me, but not only am I reading the comments, but I'm also trying to figure out which thing I want to show next. Yeah, I think understanding information warfare. So where is that? Shoot, I might have to play it on here. That's okay. So do you guys remember the video from the armed forces trying to recruit people for the psychological warfare division? And it was their ad that we all reference, and now we have memes for, and people even have shirts and hats with their logo on it. called Ghosts in the Machine. Let's just watch this real quick, and then I want to share a clip of Michael Flynn. Interestingly enough, on Epic Times, they questioned him about this ad after it came out.
As the world watches and listens in horror, the peaceful pro-democracy demonstration in China comes to a violent and bloody end. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Wolves hiding nearby, whispering do or die around me. You say your last goodnight while I get
There is another very important phase of warfare. It has as its target not the body, but the mind of the enemy.
The target of psychological warfare is against the enemy's mind.
It is words and ideas.
The ammunition used by Psywar.
Its mission is to influence the thoughts of the enemy soldier, and at the same time
is expected and encouraged to study foreign languages and the social sciences such as history, economics, and sociology. He must have a broad and sympathetic understanding of all phases of human experience.
gripping at my skin, the walls of night close in.
But the use of this force as an integral part of combat has now taken on new form.
As I wait to say my last goodbye.
These are the Psywar soldiers.
Hey, I remember to put my microphone back on this time. What a powerful ad, right? Very interesting, to say the least. But Flynn was asked about this video, and he responded to the ad. So I'm going to play that. I'm going to mute myself real quick, and let's listen in to Flynn.
So fifth generation warfare is not, it's not a new form of warfare. It's just it's raising its head because people are looking at what are the elements of warfare that are imposed upon an adversary or a society. Mm-hmm. And so it's interesting that you bring up the psychological operations, recruiting video, I believe is what you're talking about, you're referring to. And in fifth generation warfare, I part of what I call it is I call it a war of narratives, where there's distraction, there's deception, there's truth, there's some physical aspects of it. There's certainly adversarial elements. There's adversarial elements within it that are not normal, what you would describe as military type capabilities, right? Media would be part of that. Propaganda. So smart leaders, smart generals over the history of time, have always used distraction, deception, untruths, and mixed with some truth. That would be a little bit of what we would refer to in the world of deception, particularly deception operations in a military campaign. So you have to have all of these different components, before you even start talking about the physical things that you might do or might not do.
So this is really interesting. And after this part of that section, he mentioned that the Great Reset and all the globalists, the WEF, the United Nations, the WHO, they're all linked together and they're all using psychological warfare. He said, but the interesting thing about what they're doing is they're in our face about it. They're telling us what they're going to do. And it's, he seemed almost curious, like, why would they do that? But this goes back to what he was describing is what Pocket Friend, what you said, kayfabe for decades. And that's what he's talking about. He's talking about the putting some truths out there, some like misinformation intentionally, trying to mislead people. Information warfare is real, and it's like we're in the times of kinetic warfare not being needed so much, even though we have two physical wars in the world right now between Russia and Ukraine and Israel and Hamas and company, because it's more than them. So I think this explanation of information warfare is really good to go into the rest of setting the stage here. I guess it's more than setting the stage, but there's a lot of setting the stage. Okay, let's see what I want to hit next. So when Trump was saying his goodbyes in 2020, it's interesting the words. So he's very specific in what he says a lot of times, and the meanings, and sometimes it's hard to catch everything that he says. Before I go on to this, I just want to pull up the comments because, well, first of all, I responded to In God We Trust, said, why hasn't Flynn been assigned to anything yet for Trump? And so the key word there is yet. So we don't know. That's what my reply was. We don't know what's going on there. Do you remember he was up in front of an audience and Michael Flynn was in the audience and he told Mike Flynn, get ready. Told him to get ready. So I think he's going to play a critical role. I was worried that like Kash wasn't named either, but look at Director of FBI for Kash Patel. So I think it's going to be interesting to see where he puts Flynn, or if he even, well, he's announcing everything. So I would think he would announce a role for Flynn, or maybe wait until the last minute. Didn't somebody say that earlier today, that he was going to wait until the last minute to have it be a surprise or something like that? I don't know. And then questioning the WEF and United Nations and who saying what they're doing. their description, Kerry replies with what he's describing is Satan's strategy. Wrap a lie in truth, and in the core, at the core, it's still a lie. Yes. But also, I think that, and you also said that they're waiting on Flynn's appointments on purpose. He's a very dangerous enemy of the deep state. Yes. And so for some folks watching who haven't been following a lot of this, back when Trump was elected in 2016, Obama had warned Trump, the only person that Trump should have his eyes on or be careful for is Michael Flynn. And sure enough, right after Trump was inaugurated, they went after Flynn, and by February, he was gone. But now we know their tactics, so I think people have thicker skin now. I think being investigated and saying they lied to the FBI, these are all the things they accuse Flynn of, isn't going to fly this time. We know their playbook. We know they're going to go after everybody that is going to be influential in Trump's administration, period. So that being said, Trump uses his words very specifically. He gives us information in a lot of what he says. And so I have some clips from 2020 and from when he made his announcement in 2022. But let's listen to this one first, and then I'll talk about what I thought was interesting in this clip. I'm going to mute myself.
We're going to have peace through strength all over the world like we had just a short while ago. And I just want to say, closing, it's an honor to have served for 4 years. I wish we didn't have this break. The only thing good about the break is it shows how bad it can get, because we've never had a country that's been in shape like this country is in right now.
Okay, did you guys pick up on that? The first thing that's interesting about this clip, and I hope you guys could hear it okay, is that he said we're taking a break. And that at the end there,
we're going to have peace through strength all over the world like we had just a short while ago. And I just want to say, closing, it's an honor to have served for 4 years. I wish we didn't have this break.
I wish we didn't have this break. So he was calling the 4 years of Biden a break.
The only thing good about the break is it shows how bad it can get.
The only good thing about the break is it shows how bad it can get. You can't tell them. You have to show them. So this is just reminding us of these things that we know. But yes, boom, boom. I think it's really important to set this context before I just delve into Elon and RFK Jr. and Tulsi, because setting the context, I think it's going to be helpful, and it'll help us see better, maybe those indicators. Yes, show the people. That's right. You can't tell them. You have to show them. So sometimes things have to get bad before people are willing to open their eyes and wake up, So that was it. It's a break. Basically, he was saying it's a break. So it's almost like he knew, that this was just going to be a break and that people had to see how bad it could actually get. All right. And then it's interesting lately. Do you remember in some of his latest rallies that the wording he was using is about a new golden age? And if you recall, back in when he was running for 2020, before even the election, he was saying the best is yet to come. He's always been talking about a grand future. The best is yet to come. And recently he's been using the term a golden age. So I just want to go back to 2022 with the part of his announcement that he is running for president again. There's a few things. He did mention the golden age back then, which I was shocked when I came across this video. I'm like, oh, I thought that was a recent thing that he's been doing. Yes, we've so been shown you'd have to be a mental midget not to get it. Oh, I'm visual. When you use words like I picture that in my head. So I'm just cracking up internally. Anyway, all right, so I'm going to show the golden age, and then I'm going to show a couple more interesting clips from his 2022 announcement.
Thank you very much. I am asking for your vote. I am asking for your support, and I am asking for your friendship and your prayers of this very incredible but dangerous journey. If our movement remains united and confident, then we will shatter the forces of tyranny and we will unleash the glories of liberty for ourselves and for our children and for generations yet to come. America's golden age is just ahead.
Yeah, Americans' golden age is just ahead. All right, so now I just want to talk about the storm and the plan, because in his 2022 announcement, well, I'm just going to let you listen. I have three very short clips. First is he talks about this being a quest. We're on a quest to save our country.
Because this is not just a campaign. This is a quest to save our country. Talking about saving our country.
See, that's the most important thing. This is what he's been talking about from the time he came down the escalator about saving our country. And the word quest just sparked interest in me, because I feel like this has been a quest. And it's not just, like he said in his inauguration speech, this is not just another 4-year election. It's just not just another election. All right. So the quest sparked my interest, but then I kept listening, and first he says he's talking about a storm, and let's go ahead and listen to the storm clip.
The journey ahead of us will not be easy. Anyone who truly seeks to take on this rigged and corrupt system will be faced with a storm of fire that only a few could understand. Right?
Only a few could understand. This is like one of my favorite clips ever. Then he goes on to say, we're going to stand tall in the storm.
We will persevere. We will stand tall in the storm. We will march forward into the torrent. And we, in the end, will win. Our country will win. We will win.
So as much as mainstream media has made him out to be this evil person, everything he's been communicating is about making America better, making us stronger, not allowing America to be taken over. And he has such this beautiful, very beautiful vision for the future that he communicates to us. But he's like, we're going to stand strong in the storm, you know? Yes, powerful. That's right. It's very powerful. Very powerful. But it's interesting how he's bringing up the storm again. So now let's talk about when he was president and how mainstream media went crazy when he talked about the storm. Let me find what storm, Mr. President? What storm? All right. First, I'm going to play this one.
You guys know what this represents?
Well,
I don't know, maybe it's the calm before the storm.
what's the storm?
Could be the calm before the storm.
What storm is
We have the world's great military people in this room, I will tell you that. And we're going to have a great evening. Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Give us a hint on your address.
Thank you, everybody.
Do you guys remember that clip? One of my favorites. Not only that, he didn't just do it there. He doubled down on it when he was asked again. So I got to get back to where I was. What storm, Mr. President? I just love that. All right.
From the Oval Office tonight, President Trump with a wink and a tease.
Thank you very much. You'll find out.
Revealing no new details about the meaning of this cryptic comment.
So, yes, vividly. Yeah. And the thing of it is that he's standing there with military. So it's not like he's with a bunch of his cabinet members. He is there with military. He says we have the best military in this room right now, and then talks about a storm. And Trump has been all about the generals, the military. And what's interesting is that, if you ever followed the Q drops, they talk about how the military is needed to really drain the swamp and get rid of the deep state. Trump had once said the swamp was so much deeper than he thought. His campaign for 2016 was drain the swamp, drain the swamp. And after he got into office, he was being interviewed, and he had made a statement that the swamp is so much deeper than I thought, which is interesting. I didn't pull that clip, but it's just out of my memory. I remember him saying that. So then he talks about generals a lot. And, where do I start with the generals? Well, the what storm, Mr. President? So this, I don't remember who I pulled it from. Like 4 years ago, I pulled this. So I apologize if you're the one that posted it and I'm not giving you credit. But God and Country is the one that posted it on Truth Social. But Donald Trump re-truthed this. And it's a John F. Kennedy quote. I know there is a God. I see the storm coming and I see his hand in it. Isn't it interesting that John F. Kennedy talked about a storm? If he has a place, then I am ready. We see the hand. Quite a powerful quote from JFK. And I think the whole JFK assassination has a lot to do with this, but we'll talk about that next week. Interesting, like Ron Paul statements around that. So the generals, okay, what do I want to show around the generals? What storm? I got the storm one. All right, so, well, let's go to Kellogg because Trump nominated General Kellogg. And we're going to go through and just talk about how Trump does not like the TV generals. So this was, John posted this on X. And I just have a request for people that post these pictures of posts. Will you please link to the original post, please? Because that would be super helpful. Because then we can repost those posts. Anyway, this is related to a video I'm going to show you from Badlands. That's why I'm pulling up John's post about this. But Donald Trump said, I'm very pleased to nominate General Keith Kellogg to serve as assistant to the president and special envoy for Ukraine and Russia. He has led distinguished military and business career, including serving in highly sensitive national security roles, blah, blah, blah. Peace through strength, all of that. So, assistant to the president and special envoy. So Keith Kellogg is a general, one of the real generals I'm sure that Trump has been referring to. And what's interesting about this is John had recently pulled up on one of his shows. I don't remember which show, so I apologize. It was with him and Kyle and Burning Bright. Some transcript from, I don't know if it was a hearing from the House or if it was testimony, but basically it was some kind of hearing transcript. And he actually, this post about Kellogg is actually in response to what he had posted about this transcript. So John never followed Q, and Burning Bright and Kyle, Just Human, are very, very in-depth followed Q. And so John is, he came around after the whole Q movement, and he had his theory on devolution, which they still talk about today. And they kind of tie in how some of the devolution theory could be very similar to what was talked about when Q posted his drops, their drops. That's all I'm going to say about that, because we'll watch the video, and I shortened it. He had posted like a 9-minute video. We're not going to watch 9 minutes, but this is really interesting. And before we get into the generals, just to hear some of this is another hint or indicator that we're on the right path, that all of us, are on the right path. So let me find this video. Hang on. Where's my Badlands video? Here it is. Nope, that's his post. Sorry. I know I downloaded the video, so just give me 1 second, because I have a ton of links here. Man, I should have had like the video queued up for you guys to watch while I do stuff like this. So, here it is. Okay, I'm just seeing what I called it. Okay. I have it under, I didn't put it under my generals bookmarks. I'm sorry, I put it under my Trump bookmarks. All right. Let's watch.
Dan Scavino being the one who would like print out tweets, and then they would go and edit them how they wanted them, like multiple people. They used a Socratic method to come up with tweets. But one more thing here is talking about the relationship.
What'd you say there?
Did Kellogg say that they used the Socratic method?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, hold on. First, let me just say this.
I mean, the entire purpose of the Q drops is the Socratic method.
Okay. Let me read this then. Okay.
Right.
Because I think they'll find this interesting because it involves tweeting and Scavino. Okay. So did he develop the messaging and pass it down to others in the White House to send out? No, it was actually very collaborative, which a lot of people are probably surprised by it. For example, most of the time, if we would put out a tweet, it was a collaborative effort. Okay. Where he would say something like Dan, for Dan Scavino, let's say. He'd call in Dan and he'd say, Dick and Jane ran up the hill. And he wouldn't like that. And somebody would say, no, they ran down the hill, or this. And they do several iterations of a tweet before it came out, but the messaging came from the president. And then you always had, many times, I wouldn't say all the time because I wasn't there all the time, but you had an ability for people to come into the room and say, you don't want to say that, or do you want to say this? And this is what's happening. But we all took our key from the president because he was, when you asked that question, the chief messenger was the president. And then when we went through the Socratic or collaborative method, you would always have a chance to have input. You had an option. If you If you were in the room, you were expected to speak, and you would say, no, this is what I think we should say.
Okay, that is one of the most Q fucking sections in the info war right there on like 60 levels. And for one,
you're welcome.
Him said, I mean, the Socratic method, I'm sure you've heard, Q people say this forever, John, but the whole point of the Q drops was that it was implemented via the Socratic method. He's talking about a collaborative effort around tweets, which the drops are what said that Trump's tweets are being collaborated on by the Q team, and that there's a...
I'm pausing this just for a second. You have to know that this is Kellogg's testimony. General Kellogg.
Reason for it, because that's how they're circumventing the mainstream media. Then even that graph you just read, I think it's pretty strange wording. Can you go back up to where he says key? That's not a normal way to say that sentence. We all took our key from the president. Doesn't he mean Q? We all took our Q. So if you're talking about a key, the theories around how the Q drops and how the Q team coordinated with each other was via, well, actually not theories, how the Q drops said they coordinated with each other was via encryption, which you need a key to unlock. So you needed multiple people read in on the communications op sharing a private key with each other in order to collaborate on messaging between the drops and the tweets that Trump was putting out, which is where all of the deltas, how they coordinated all the deltas.
Beautiful point, BB. I got another one to go alongside it. That testimony right there confirms that the errors in Trump's tweets aren't errors, that they are intentional comms, the caps lock, the misspellings, the spaces, all of that stuff, because he just said it's a collaborative effort with more than one person checking it and brainstorming it and crafting it.
This was such a cool moment, caught and recorded. And John had no clue. He didn't know. He even said in his X post that he almost didn't even bring this up. So that was Kellogg's testimony. Pocket friend, Kellogg was with Trump from the beginning. Military is imperative. The swamp is deep and strong. God always wins. Woohoo. Going to be a turbulent but amazing time in our lives. Yeah, we just have to have trust. That's for sure. Pocket friend says they miss Kyle. Kyle who? Kyle is Just Human. You probably know him as Just Human. If you look up on the screen here, the one in the upper right-hand corner is our Kyle. All right. So the method they're talking about, right? The Socratic method. So that is a form of getting information, or instead of like telling people something, you ask them a question. You put it in question form. So part of the whole Q thing was to give just enough information that people would want to go and research for themselves using open source intelligence. Anything on the internet is open source intelligence. And it's interesting because after this started and a lot of research happened and a lot of things were exposed from this research, isn't it interesting that that's the same time when scrubbing things on the internet became a popular activity to do? Kind of interesting. But so Q would pose things in question form, like, where was Hillary? Or why did Hillary go to, I'm just making something up, by the way, this is not real. Why did Hillary go to Finland in 1962? That would be the question. Everybody would go off and try to figure out, well, why did she go there? And then all this information would come up surrounding that going down the rabbit holes, finding information, and then tying pieces together through questions. Very cool. This was an amazing moment that they had there. So I just thought this would be good before I bring up some of the other general stuff, because this was from Kellogg, and Trump just announced that Kellogg would be joining his team, which is super cool. Scavino has a reminder for us too. This is from 2023. Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know. And a lot of us were thinking, oh, he's referring to TV generals here. So, all right, back to generals. Oh, okay. There was a letter sent to Biden and Secretary Austin. There's a lot of panic going on around the generals. Well, actually, since we're on Kellogg, let me go to him first. Then I'll go to the panic. General Kellogg was advisor to Mike Pence. So if you go back and look at what actually was his role back in the 2016 administration, he worked closely with Pence. And oops, I got the wrong thing. But while I've got the wrong thing, Pocket Friend gave a perfect example of a real question. Why did Hillary and Bill honeymoon in Haiti? I have a lot of information on that. Honeymoon in Haiti. All right. So this is General Kellogg. Donald Trump retruthed this. I can't remember who I got it from that highlighted this. This is, but this is from General Kellogg. My statement on Pence. I've worked, let's see what the date is on. Oh, do I not have a date? Okay. I've worked alongside many leaders in my years of service. I think this might have been last year when Pence was running for president. So he's actually endorsing Trump instead of Pence, even though he worked for Pence. So I've worked alongside many leaders in my years of service to this nation. Among them, President Donald J. Trump stands apart as a figure of unwavering determination, a deep vision for America, and the courage to take a stand where others wilt. Ain't that the truth? His bold and dramatic leadership style during his presidency resulted in significant achievements for our country. For a period of time in the White House, I served as the National Security Advisor to Vice President Pence. While I respect his service to our nation, I must express my disappointment in his recent actions regarding President Trump. It is not the decisive leadership that we have seen from President Trump. Where President Trump is bold and unafraid to challenge the status quo, Pence has often chosen the passive route, avoiding confrontation. This lack of assertiveness, combined with an reliance on failed political consultants like Mark Short, has demonstrated a laissez-faire leadership style unworthy of the presidency. While President Trump has consistently put America first, prioritizing our citizens, our economy, and the global standing, Pence's actions have often seemed more focused on political maneuvering and maintaining his image. And that can be dangerous. That's my own comment. That is not what Republican voters want. President Trump's dedication to the prosperity and security of the United States is unwavering, as is his vision for the future. I believe in the future President Trump envisions, a future that demands bold and decisive leadership, something we have seen in President Trump, but not from the former vice president. Wow. I mean, what a statement is that, right? So Trump has people who have been around him forever. And so now I'm going to show some of these comments because Let me go through. I have to scroll up. Sorry. Who said Kellogg has been with him from the beginning? Darn it. I don't remember who said it. Okay, somebody said that Kellogg has been with him since the beginning. So I apologize. I'm trying to scroll up. And Pocket Friends says Scavino was Trump's golf caddy as a young man. Yep. So Scavino has been with Trump from the very beginning too. He started out as a golf caddy, which is so cool. So anyway, I think I'm missing some more chat, but yes. So Trump knows who is going to be loyal, but he has to test the people who have come into his life the last 8 years because, you know, he thought he had people that were loyal and they ended up not being. And then he had people, well, remember that interview from way back when where he said sometimes you have to lose it all to know who's on your side. Remember that? Yes, loyalty means so very much to Trump, and I respect that. Yeah. And it's not about loyalty as the MSM twists it to be like, you'll do whatever I want, even if it's not good. That's not it. You know, there's a lot of people who have just stabbed Trump in the back, period. And it's about that. It's about not stabbing him in the back. So, all right, let's talk about panic a little bit. So, hang on one second. This is this is from Elizabeth Warren and Richard Blumenthal. Okay. This letter went out to Joe Biden and Lloyd Austin, Secretary of Defense. They are asking him, I'm not going to read this whole thing because it's huge, but I will read just this first sentence. We write to urge you to issue a policy directive that prohibits the mobilization of active duty military or federalizing National Guard personnel to be deployed against their fellow Americans unless specifically authorized. They sent out this drastic letter. And then they refer to the Posse Comitatus Act. Now, I haven't looked that up, to be fair, as I look at this. They reference this and says it outlaws the willful use of any part of the armed forces to execute the law unless expressly authorized by the Constitution or an act of Congress. So they're scared. They're scared that Trump's going to come in, declare a national emergency. When he declares a national emergency, they know that he will have the power to do the things he needs to get done. And this is all about him talking about wanting to lock up the border. He says the border is an invasion. He said he's going to declare an emergency. They are in panic. They're panicked over this. So the reason I bring this up with the generals is because I feel like some of all of these maneuvers with the military are part of the plan. And it's not about a dictatorship. It's about draining the swamp, getting rid of corruption. And the establishment does not want that. They are going to fight him tooth and nail on this stuff. So, yeah. So there was, this was reported in The Hill. That's where I got this. And I have a couple of things highlighted on here. I hate that videos load and then they keep loading when I go past them. I hate that. Websites drive me nuts, by the way. Pop-ups and the videos that autoplay, that kind of stuff. I already talked about that part. So they talked about the act, and they talk about, interestingly, the Insurrection Act. This is not big enough for you guys to see very well. Let me just make it bigger. The Insurrection Act. So I've highlighted the things that I just want to cover on here. They said it should only be invoked when state or local authorities are overwhelmed by an emergency or attack and request assistance. That is under the normal course of action. Do you remember when all the Antifa and BLM riots, burned down Minneapolis, which is so close to me, and everybody did nothing. They did nothing in Oregon. They did nothing in Seattle. Trump begged them to let him send in some troops to help, and if you look, he held back. So how anybody can believe the media that he would just be a dictator? Like, he was begging them to ask him for military assistance. So what they're saying here that I've highlighted is true in normal circumstances. If he declares a national emergency for an invasion, he can clean these criminals out. And he can absolutely use the military to do it. They also said the armed forces should only be called to protect citizens' civil liberties if law enforcement has failed to do so, that the military must follow the law if called, and that a president must consult with Congress before invoking the Insurrection Act. Okay, this is what they want Biden's declaration to say. They want this wording in this urgent request for a declaration, not even a declaration. I don't remember what they called it. I have another question on that, though. They're like, Trump will now enter office on January 20th with a broad immunity. So they're worried because the Supreme Court says he does have broad immunity for any official acts as president, including military deployments. This is what they're afraid of. Why are they so afraid of that? And then they say, still, service members would still be obligated to follow their own internal laws. Yeah. The Law of War Manual. That's right. They have to follow that. So that's all I wanted to point out on that. But with that panic, the letter, what they're asking him is to issue a policy directive. So I have a question worth pondering, potentially. All right. So my question is, if Biden issues a policy directive, Trump goes in, he sets new policies. Can he just undo it? Even if it's an executive order, Trump can just revoke it. Can he?
Now that is a good question worth pondering.
Ooh, I had my finger on the trigger for that one. You guys answer me in chat, because I'm not sure what the answer is to that. I'm going to pull chat back up. Okay. There's more panic, though. There's more panic. AP put out this interesting article. I'm going to tell you why it's interesting. This was put out in January of 2024. So there's been a lot of complaints about the military going woke. And I feel like this is a messaging piece, narrative piece. But their headline is U.S. military academics focus on oaths and loyalty to Constitution as political divisions intensify. What this article does, I don't know if let me just double check, make sure I didn't see if I highlighted anything. Okay, just checking my highlights. They don't always work on every site either. Okay, they do work here, so I didn't highlight. I just wanted to call this out. So this feels like a narrative propaganda piece to change people's mind about wokeness impacting the military and a response to that. They're trying to convince us in this article that the Constitution is the most important, and to that there's officers, their loyalty is focused on the nation's democratic underpinnings rather than that of an individual, is a reflection of how the armed forces are being forced to deal with America's deep political polarization. So, oh, can you guys hear me okay? Okay. They do call out pretty much their reason for this article, that it's come under scrutiny, and for good measure. Hang on one second. So I called out this panic piece in a post on Telegram, and that's what I wanted to cover. So they're worried about Trump coming back, and they pointed out that they teach students to follow the Constitution. I also called out that the AP spins this to mean that they teach it because of the danger of Trump. So I dug in a little bit, and Major Joe Amoroso, the instructor, he's a veteran who seems to have a history in wanting to ensure the military is not politicized. He stated back in 2021 how important it is to be politically aware but not partisan. AP wants you to think that West Point is suddenly adjusting their lesson plans due to President Trump. And I asked, what are they worried about? Because the policies that they have at West Point have been in place for years. And nobody answered me if you can hear me. I hope I'm not silent. I hope you guys can hear me okay. Let me know. Those policies have been around forever. So then I did a couple of quotes on that, but I have a second one that I want to bring up. Oh, that's just their headline. So I wanted to call out that both mainstream media plus politicians are worried about the military. And let's see. I didn't finish with my Kellogg stuff. Okay. Here is a quote from Kellogg talking about the Israel war, or what's happening in the Middle East.
Look, here's the concern everybody needs to have, and it's a risk assessment. What you're seeing right now and what you're hearing right now is Armageddon knocking on the door in the Middle East.
He said Armageddon is knocking on the door in the Middle East. I think this man, thank you, Kari, for saying you hear me. Thank you. Yay. Thank you. All right. So this is General Kellogg, if you guys haven't seen him. We don't see a lot about him because he's not one of those TV generals that Trump refers to. All right, generals. I already showed that. Oh, General Milley. Let's just bring this up. General Milley's, this is Revolver. Revolver is so good. General Milley's anti-Trump resignation letter stunt blew up in his face. So he leaked to the New Yorker. And look at this meme they have for this article. Orange man bad. Oh my gosh. At first I thought this was like Hunter Biden, but that's Milley. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. All right. Let's see. When was this posted? Why did I? Oh, this was from 2022. Oh my goodness. Let me see if I've got my notes on this one. I don't want to read out this whole article because I have more important. Let me get back to this one. Get to the other generals. All right. I do want to talk about General Milley though, because he was in a hearing. Where is Milley? He was in a hearing, and Joe Rambo posted this. This is interesting what Milley says about the United States. And he said it so fast, we all could have missed it very easily. He talks about the United States being a corporation.
That has been ignored. The Department of Defense has refused. We've also requested the testimonies of General Chris Donahue and Admiral Peter Vaisley, who were the commanding officers on the ground during the Abbey Gate disaster. To both of you, to General Milley, do you think that these documents should be turned over to the United States Congress? And do you think that both General Donahue and Admiral Vaisley should testify before Congress?
Sure, I absolutely do. I believe transparency. You're the board of directors for this corporation called the American government. And
You're the board of directors for this corporation. What did he say? Corporation called the U.S. government? Let's listen again.
for this corporation called the American government. And
The corporation called the American government. Is that not the oddest comment to have in a hearing? You are the board of directors for this corporation called the American government. So part of the stuff that we dug into was finding out that the United States was incorporated as a corporation. Interesting that Milley said that. So this is one of the generals. I have a question for you guys. Do you think there's any kayfabe with Milley? With all the woke stuff in the military and all that. I'm curious what you think. I don't think so. For me, I'm thinking he's really just like wherever the power is, do what they want. But I could be wrong. It could totally be. What makes a good movie, guys? What makes a good movie? That's the Socratic method. What makes a good movie? Good actors, potentially. Anyway, yeah, I'm sorry I'm hopping around on the general stuff because I didn't have numbers to put these in the right order. So, all right. So Trump has always promoted that we have great generals. He's always talked about how he's never talking about the TV generals that are out on TV constantly all the time. Somebody posed a question about that, saying, isn't Michael Flynn a general, and isn't he all over the place doing interviews and stuff? Good question. I trust Flynn though, but I think the whole movement is divided on the Flynn. I trust him though, we all think he knows where the bodies are buried, and I think he's going to be a part of all this.
ISIS, but that was already started. We had stupid generals like Milley and Mattis, weak, stupid people. But fear not, we have great generals, just not the ones that you see on television all the time. And we wiped them out very quickly. It was going to take 5 years. Mattis said it would take 5 years, and I'm not sure we could do it. It took us like 4 weeks.
Did you notice how he said, fear not? Fear not. I love that part of this clip. Here's another.
We have great generals. We have not the ones that you see on television, the real generals that we have. And we have great generals, and we brought our troops back home. We got them back home, but we defeated ISIS. And I was the first president in decades who didn't start a war. I didn't start a war. We had peace through strength.
That's right. Peace through strength. And he always talks about raising Cain.
We had a general named Cain, right? You know General Cain. General Cain was great. He wiped them out so fast. We have great military. We have great generals, not the television generals, the real generals that we have.
So this is just to illustrate that he talks about the generals all the time. Not just like saying we have great generals, but check this out. When he was being interviewed backstage,
They don't get it. By the way, you hear that voice in the background. That's General George Patton. And that's the real voice. We don't have Patton right now. We have great generals, but they're not the television guys that we've been watching. That I can tell you.
I found that to be super interesting. He loves Patton. And he's doing an interview backstage and says, stop. Listen, do you hear that voice? Do you know who that voice is? That's General Patton. Pretty interesting. I want to see if I want to show this or not. No, I don't think so. So I feel like, let me just make sure I didn't miss anything with the generals. Yeah, I've got more. Nope. Okay, yeah. So I just want to quick talk about the transition, and all of this is going to set the stage for next week's show, where we delve into the details of indicators for how certain people could have been a part of this long-standing, decades-long plan all along. And I do think it's decades long, as far as wanting to save America. And as Ron Paul put it, which I'll show his clip, maybe we'll start with his clip on the next show, and where he talks about that it began after when JFK was assassinated. That was an American coup, and that's when it all started. So I want to talk about the transition right now because this is very interesting. And it helps kind of set the stage for where we're going to go. So let me get my bookmarks up here. First, before I think this was before the election. Let me look at the date on this. No, it was right after. It was right after Trump team started talking about how they're not going to want the government involved in the presidential transition. And this just kind of sparked my eye while I was prepping for the show. I don't even know how I came across this. This is from the Washington Examiner. There is a presidential act of 1963 that lets the General Services Administration, they refer to it as the GSA, to provide the transition team, when you're transitioning out and in, money, office space, computers, technical equipment, all kinds of services, phone lines, anything you need to help aid in the transition. They get X million dollars, so many millions of dollars for their transition team. And Trump's team is saying, you know what? I don't think we want your help. Because what happened in the last transition is incredible. When Trump was elected in 2016, this is not 2020, this is 2016, they were all pretty new, the transition team. Trump had never been president. He even admits he didn't really know the ropes and all of that, and even had some bad actors in there, and all that with the FISA, the Russiagate, all that kind of stuff, the spying on his campaign. Well, GSA was a big part of the spying on the campaign. They have a memorandum of understanding with the campaigns, which is a legal document, by the way. It's a contract that they can negotiate the terms of how GSA is going to work with them, how much they're going to use them, blah, blah, blah. One of the things that the Trump team agreed to was, yes, we could probably use some of this technical equipment, but the GSA by law and as a part of their memorandum of understanding with the Trump campaign agreed that all machines would get wiped as soon as the transition was complete. They didn't follow their end of the agreement. They hung on to all of the information that was on the computers, phone records, all of the data that they collected. And it started with one request to retain data on, who was it on? Was it Michael Flynn? Because they were going after him. They were going after Flynn immediately. Like they immediately went after Flynn. I think it might have been Flynn. Anyway, so they talked about how they were considering GSA was hostile to Trump in 2016. They didn't likely want to use their services. So that's what they decided. They decided we're not going to. So this is November 28th. And they are running the transition privately, which means the campaign is paying for everything, for all the transition, for all their office space, all their equipment. They're not using any government property. If you notice, all of Trump's meetings are at Mar-a-Lago. He's not going to the White House to meet with these people. You know, he's got everything under the control of the campaign and the transition team. I found this to be very, very interesting. And let's talk about 2020. In 2020, the GSA let Mueller secretly gain access to Trump's transition records. This was reported in October of 2020. And this goes through all the details. So I'm going to share this. I have a lot of links, and I'm not going to share all of them unless you want specific ones. But this one I am going to post about, with a link to this, about what happened with the Trump transition, how they spied on him, how Mueller got his hands on a lot of the Trump information, and all of that. I think it's important to notice what the Trump team is doing now versus what happened back in 2016, 2020, and all of that. I think it helps set the stage. Y'all can read into those details. We've been going for 2 hours. So I think I'm going to cut it there. And then the next show, let's start with RFK, actually. Well, Ron Paul. Then RFK. The Elon stuff is going to be really interesting. I found his stuff the most interesting. But Tulsi's pretty interesting too. If you guys hear of any other connections from new people joining the Trump team, I would love to hear about it, and I can add that when we talk in the next show about these connections. Were they a part of the plan all along? That is the question. And considering what the plan is, I think we might just have indicators that they might be. So that brings us to the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope setting the context was okay. It's a little different format than what I was planning. Please be sure to subscribe to Rumble or YouTube if you're on YouTube. All the channels, actually. Go to all of them and subscribe. And then if you could give it a thumbs up, it will get out to more people. I really appreciate it. And remember, you can find different ways to support me on Linktree at Nevs TV. I appreciate all of you who have been so supportive, and I can't thank you enough. So next week's show, that's what we're going to go through. I was going to go through MK Ultra, but now I'm not going to. Well, actually, we might touch on it a little bit anyway. And then December 17th is going to be a special Christmas show, and Carrie will be with me, and we are just going to talk about the time of Jesus. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'll give you more details next week. And, but it's related to, well, that's all. I'm going to leave it at that. And I'll give you more description next week. But December 17th, mark your calendars. By the way, notice I started at 7 tonight. The only reason, well, I had changed the show's time to accommodate for Moxie, who worked and was like on call and had to take her son to school and stuff. And so I was pushing it later and later. And I want to go back to the original time because I think that works better for everyone. And it does for me too, because I'm an early bird. I think a lot of us are. And considering when everybody says good morning on Telegram at like 4 a.m., I'm not even up by then, but I am up by like 5 or 5:30. So tell me if that's a problem or if you disagree with that. But I'm thinking just going back to the normal time. Doing the same thing with Meme Wars. I had rescheduled that time slot for the similar reason. So this Saturday is Meme Wars. Be sure to go on Telegram and submit your memes to my post as a comment to that post so I see it. So we are going to do Meme Wars at 8 a.m. my time, but I think it's 9 a.m. Eastern time. So I'm Central. I'm Central time. So I hope that works for you guys. I hope you're excited about just getting back to the normal rhythm of everything. And, around the holidays, even though the show is normally scheduled like on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, I'm not sure if I'm going to pre-record or if I'm going to just go ahead and come on live and share, not research, not politics, but who knows? Maybe I'll go on and share Christmas memes or something so that I'm not gone for like 2 weeks in a row. All right. So please join us on Saturday morning for Meme Wars. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I really appreciated you guys being with me for this and sticking with me so long tonight. I hope you have a great night. We'll see you Saturday and see you for the next show here too as well. Have a good night.
I can see clearly now the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright